Yisrael thrive. In the glow of endless skies, hear our future.
Hello, guys. Welcome to Yisrael Thrive. I'm your host, Shayna Netanya, with...
I'm Jen, and this is where thriving is our resilience. It's so nice to see you on this lovely Sunday afternoon.
Exactly. Jen, is it raining where you're at? Because it is coming down hard out here in California.
It's actually sunny. It's in the 60s. It's beautiful, but the rain is coming this week. We're going to have a high of 80 degrees later on this week, which I'm so excited about. However, it is going to be raining. I don't know about in California, but we are experiencing a drought. So any rain is a positive here. So
we get the fires every single summertime. So I think we need the rain too, but it's just always a little gross when it's raining for me. I'm a summertime person. So there we go.
Exactly. So how are things with you, Shayna? What are your rose and your thorn of this week?
Well, everybody has been wondering about what's going on with my aliyah. And as I said, my file was submitted earlier this month, and I finally heard back from my shliach. And of course, there is more paperwork. I feel like it's the more cowbell meme at this point. More paperwork. I did all my paperwork in the beginning, had my interview, more paperwork after the interview. My file went to review, more paperwork after review. But you know what, though? The positive lesson I am taking away from this is that it is just making my tenacity grow, because I refuse to let them not let me do it.
Exactly. And you're so close. Do they give you a time frame of when you could possibly actually move over there?
So when you go in for the interview, they ask you what your time frame was. And so back, last year, my time frame was initially November. And then when I got all my stuff together, I had another interview, and then it was April. I mean, so unfortunately, they do ask you when you want to be gone by, but that is no guarantee that is when you will actually leave. And so right now, I'm just saying that it's all on Hashem's time at this point. I can only do what I'm supposed to do and do the tasks. And that's what I am doing. The good news is all the paperwork that they want is easily attainable. So I should be able to have this within the next month. And I'm just going to keep giving me these barriers. I'm going to keep knocking them down.
I mean, that must be incredibly frustrating, especially because, if you have a house or renting, you have to let your landlord know when you're moving out and your lease. So, oh my goodness, I give
and my job has asked about that as well too. They're like, aren't you supposed to be resigning this month? And I was like, no, I'll let you know when it is happening. But yeah. My clients were freaking out, and I've had to let them know. Like, I had a client that literally had an attachment meltdown the other day, because he's like, you're gonna leave, and this poor guy, he's in his 60s, and he just retreated into being a little 5-year-old again, because I've become kind of an attachment figure, for him. So yeah.
Your job, obviously I know it's part of the United States, but there's no remote option you would be able to do. No, just have to
I work for the government here, and so it's all about, working in person with our clients and stuff. So unfortunately not. How was your week?
Oh, sorry. I was just so fascinated about the Aliyah process. I'm just wondering, do they help you find, jobs that meet, your licensure and credentials, or are they just kind of like, okay, good luck, find it on your own?
So I am actually not a licensed or credentialed therapist. I am a health worker, and I do have an NPI number in California, and I am designated as a counselor, and I can do counseling around certain types of things that do not require a licensure. So that's why I've chosen to do life coaching, because it's much easier. It's a much easier category. You don't have to, produce any kind of licensure, even to operate in Israel. And that's why the focus that I've chosen to focus on is more existentially based, and is more in line with what I'm doing currently with helping people get to their goals. That is a talent I am very good at, is helping people get to goals.
Yeah, no, it's so exciting. It's fascinating to learn so much from you about this process, because in my head, I just think, oh, you fill out a bunch of paperwork, you have interviews, and that's that. But the extent, the scrutiny that you have been sharing with us over the past several months, it's very intense. And I was naive, thinking it was something a little bit shorter.
Oh no, they require FBI background checks, everything.
Which I understand. Israel is going through like a crisis on so many different fronts. I can understand that. But yeah, especially, but if you're trying to, save yourself, you would hope this would go a little bit faster, but.
Exactly. But what were pros and thorn this week?
So I rose this week. I know a lot of you have noticed that I have not been active on my page. I have been so busy dealing with moving with my family on my end. My family of 5, we're trying to find a place because my mother-in-law, sold her house and now is ready to start her next journey in life with my family. And so this past week, we've been just looking at places. Just like you, very stressful trying to find a place that fits everyone's wants and needs, and making sure that the location is in the right place for me to take my son to school, for me to get to work, my husband to get to work. So it has been a very stressful past 2 weeks, but we did find a place, hallelujah. And so we can start moving in next month. So hopefully I'll be back on and be a little bit more active. So that was a big rose. A thorn this week. I again, as I said, I haven't been really on social media this week, and I've noticed my mental health has been a little bit better because my head, I hate to say it's a balance of stepping away from the news, but also you want to be aware of what is going on. So a part of me feels kind of guilty that I put my head in the sand, and I'm not really arguing back about the narratives that are being pushed. But at the same time, like our sanity, like we can't always just be so angry and stressed every day. So my big thorns this week that I have just seen, one, Pakistan is trying to broker a peace deal between Iran, the United States, and Israel, which I find extremely laughable.
Yeah.
Pakistan, which held Osama bin Laden for years, the same country that, has a lot of radical Islamists and have very awful laws against women. They bombed a hospital in Afghanistan during their very short war recently. And yet, where is that pushback? I have not seen that. Just today, the president of Turkey has now come into the political arena saying, oh, well, just like we went into Libya, I can go into Israel. And again, it's interesting that Turkey, which is illegally occupying northern Cyprus since 1974, no one bats an eyelid. Nobody is having this massive world outcry. Where are the protesters? None to be found. And they refuse to acknowledge the Armenian genocide. So
I was going to say that as well, too.
The same country that screams Israel's committing a genocide refuses to acknowledge the genocide that they actually committed.
And they were colonizers too, by the way.
Yes.
The Ottoman Empire.
The Ottoman Empire. They also are screaming about illegal occupation. Well, who is illegally occupying Cyprus? So it's just so laughable in my mind. And last but not least, South Korea, their prime minister or president, excuse me, has come out and saying that they saw a video clip, which happened to be from September of 2024, saying that this is very similar to the Holocaust. So you're bringing up Holocaust imagery, our trauma, to hurt Israel and to hurt Israelis and Jews in 2026 is just beyond laughable.
Agreed. None of it's coming in good faith, and that is, I think, one of the biggest challenges to actual change that we can have right now is people really aren't coming in good faith. They're coming with ideological ideas that they're trying to impress upon one another, you know, which is why I'm so excited to have today's guest on, Mr. Sandy Cardin from Global Jewry, which is actually an organization that is looking to try to unite and build bridges across the world. And so let's go ahead and bring on our guest, Mr. Sandy Cardin. Welcome to Yisrael Thrive, Mr. Cardin. How's it going today?
Well, thank you very much for having me. Call me Sandy, please. And it's not raining here. It's a little breezy in Baltimore, Maryland, but it's sunny and nice. So we're looking forward to a good week here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sandy, for joining us today. Now, I'd love for those of our audience members that don't know about the Global Jewry, can you just give them a little rundown on what it is?
Sure. Global Jewry is a worldwide network of Jewish organizations, all of which have joined our platform because of their willingness to communicate, cooperate, and collaborate. We know that one of the challenges of the Jewish philanthropic ecosystem is that there's a lot of siloization, there's a lot of turf, there's a lot of separation. What we're trying to do is help everybody understand that if we all work together better, we will all achieve our own individual and our group goals. And so we can make the Jewish people stronger, and we can help the world at large better if we work together, not if we keep working separately.
I love that. I find that many people that I speak to find that a lot of Jewish organizations are so disjointed. There's not one unifying platform. What does having a global Jewish unity look like in practice? Not just in theory, but what does that look like?
Well, in practice, a couple of things. You'd be surprised how little is out in the Jewish world in terms of organizations belonging to entities that engage everyone and represent everyone. Global Jewry, I was very surprised to learn it arose because of my concern about the way Jews were speaking to one another during the judicial reform debate in Israel. That was really the genesis of it. But I've known through my career about the challenges of organizations not working together. But that's when it came to a head. And you'd be surprised when you think about it, there aren't really global organizations or global initiatives where organizations come together. You have global organizations, but they have an organizational agenda, right? Their own. Mm-hmm. But you don't have one that's for the Jewish people and Jewish organizations. So what it looks like is first joining, becoming part of Global Jewry, becoming part of the platform, lending your name, lending your logo, having a senior officer of your organization join as an advisor, and then participating by taking part in master classes, helping to put together global roundtables or communities of practice, engaging with us through social media and our WhatsApp groups, just otherwise making yourself available and availing yourself of other organizations and their programs and their people and their ideas.
That sounds amazing. It sounds like one of the ways in which you're trying to affect change is almost building a think tank.
Yeah, a think tank, yes, but also what we hope is a practice tank, right? We know that these organizations, there's so much they can learn from one another, regardless of where they are, regardless of their size, regardless of their mission. There's so much they can learn from each other and share with each other. We want to create a platform for that to happen easily, without a lot of friction, and just back and forth. Ask a question, get an answer, and move on. And we wanted you to do that from your friends and your colleagues in the Jewish organizational world. Don't just necessarily run to Claude or Chat or Gemini. Maybe ask a real person in the Jewish community and build a relationship there.
That's beautiful. What are some of the biggest barriers preventing Jews around the world from being connected or having this global alliance right now?
Well, I think there are a few. I think, first of all, it's a mindset of really taking the notion of Jewish peoplehood, of the sense of being one family, and not just saying it, but really thinking about what that means. I have a thesis that many Jews, when they wake up in the morning, they think about their Judaism through the prism of the organizations with which they're affiliated or they engage. So they wake up and they think, I'm a Reform Jew, or I'm a Haredi Jew, or I'm an American Jew, or an Israeli Jew, whatever it may be. And then they realize that as being that, they're part of the Jewish people. I would love to wave a wand and change that dynamic, just reverse it. So when you wake up in the morning, you realize you're part of an amazing global people, and that the way you implement that in your life is through the choices you make through the organizations with which you participate. But your first thing is that you know you're part of this larger people. And then the secondly is that's a smaller group. If we could change that, it would change a lot of the way people think about things, because everything would be in the totality. And then only secondarily would it be specifically. We also have some language issues. I mean, we can do that. Technology is great. So it would be terrific, I think. I'm not a native Hebrew speaker. I'm barely a Hebrew speaker at all. But we do have, people talk about having a common language. We have a common language. It's Hebrew. If we could spread that and have more Jews speaking Hebrew throughout the world, that would be helpful. We know that Jews in Latin America, in Australia, it's really outside of the United States and Canada. Many Jews speak Hebrew better than they do sort of in America. If we could change that dynamic, that would make a difference. And then lastly, we have to get over our scarcity mindset. This isn't about, there are plenty of resources to do everything we want to do in Jewish life. And most of the things that we want to accomplish really don't take money. They take a change in culture. They take a change in openness, acceptance, that kind of thing. So we have to work on that. We have to work on our interpersonal relationships with each other, tolerance and understanding of what it means to be part of the Jewish people. Unity does not mean unanimity. We're all going to be different, just like a family. We just have to accept that and embrace it, really, because it's part of what makes us so special, and treat everybody with dignity and respect.
I completely hear that. It sounds like what you're really talking about is kind of getting out of this ideological siloing that we can sort of put ourselves in sometimes, with whichever sect we're in, what our beliefs are, politics, things like that. How are you guys, what kinds of tools are you practically using to really kind of lay out all of those barriers that present themselves as difference and instead focus on what unites us?
Yeah, I mean, the tools that we're using, we're a very, very modestly funded organization. Right now, our budget for this platform network piece is less than $200,000 a year. I'm doing this not only as a volunteer, but as a donor to it. And everybody on board is anyone who is even receiving any compensation for this. They're basically just getting a little stipend. They're really volunteers with a little bit of stipend. People are spending much more time on this than their agreement stipulates, and we're very, very thankful to them. So what we're trying to use is, of course, technology, because we can reach everybody that way. So we have a very active WhatsApp group for every partner, and we have subgroups for different elements of groups that are working in global Jewry, like our roundtables in arts and education, a roundtable in climate action, a roundtable in sports. And we're working on to create these other roundtables. We have the master classes, the open mic days where people are invited to come on board on a webinar and just sign in. And we line them up, and we have maybe 5 or 6 people just say what they're doing from around the world, whatever it is. Really what we're trying to do through everything we have, whether it's social media, whether it's through WhatsApp, whether email, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it is, we're just trying to get people to talk to one another, right? We just want to, we want to create an atmosphere where people are exchanging information. They feel comfortable reaching out to everybody. The network will work and will really prosper when people use it, right? You get from a network what you put into it. It's very rare that you get a lot from a network if you don't also contribute to it. And that's what we're looking to do, is try and make it easy for people to participate so they can not just contribute, but receive a lot from it as well.
I love that. So I know that we mentioned, being Jewish, we have different ideologies, we have different thoughts and so on and so forth. There's the proverb, 2 Jews, 3 different opinions, so on and so forth. What about Zionism? Does that come up in global Jewry? Is there discussions, are there anti-Zionist Jews part of this as well? I'm just very curious to see how you bridge, the Jews around the world, but when it comes to Zionism itself, we've had, from fractions forming. Is there a way that we're trying to bridge everyone together? What's your take on Zionism versus anti-Zionism in this global Jewry action?
Well, again, look, I think it goes to how one defines it. I will tell you that global Jewry, one of the principles of global Jewry is you can't be a participant in global Jewry if you don't recognize the legitimacy of the state of Israel, right? So if you don't do that, you're not invited. That's not part of what we do. The second thing is you're not invited to be part of Global Jewry if you are a polarizing Jewish organization. Look, there are the organizations, and I don't want to judge what people believe or what their missions, but what we need here is this is a place where it's dignity and respect and understanding. I joke when I talk to people about joining. I say, look, what we're trying to create at Global Jewry is the same thing my mother had at the Shabbat table every week. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. Right? That's what we're trying to do here. I'm not trying to change anybody's opinion on things, but what we do need to respect everybody's opinion and treat them courteously. No ad hominem attacks. If you want to disagree with a statement or a concept, that's fine. But if you're trying to drive a division between Jews to separate, that's not okay. That's not what we're about.
As someone who used to be on debate team in high school, I so love that you're bringing that civility back, that we can disagree, but it doesn't have to turn into an ad hominem attack. Attack the idea, not the person. Now, if I was an organization, I was thinking about, joining Global Jewry, what would it cost me?
Nothing. Global Jewry is totally free. I've always felt throughout my career that in too many places, money plays too much of a role in aspects of Jewish life, particularly in the United States, where it's very expensive to engage significantly Jewishly. Certainly, if you're talking about day school and some other activities. So, and the resources are there. This is not an expensive kind of thing. I wish we had more money, because with more money, we could hire more people, and with more people, we could engage the network more often, sort of more frequently, with greater intensity, which is what a network is all about. But you can do some of that with volunteers and others. But the bottom line is, when we went on board, the key was getting as many people involved as I could at the beginning. A fee was just going to be an excuse to say no matter how low it was. And so I just abandoned it because it's not necessary. And if we are able to prove to people through our operations that we're of value, there are plenty of resources out there that we can find on a volunteer basis. So there's no fee at all. And there's no fee for advisors or for partners. And we don't charge anything for our activities either. If you want to participate in a global roundtable or a master class, you just join and participate.
I'm kind of curious to learn more about what specific things that this group is doing. So like what are some examples of the master classes that you offer, or what are some volunteer work that people could do? I'm just really curious about some examples of those.
Well, everything we do at Global Jewry is partner driven. So what we do is create the opportunity for the partners to describe what they want to do, and then we support them in doing that. We have no agenda. There's no particular issue we're trying to change, except increase civility and greater connection between and among Jewish organizations. We're not dealing with the big complex challenges that face the Jewish world, with one caveat, which is, if we don't do what we do well, which is treat people with dignity, respect, and communication, none of those other issues are going to get resolved anyway, right? So while we say we're not out there with these issues that are separating the Jewish people, actually we're working on the fundamental issue. And if we get that right, then we have a chance to fix the others. If we don't, we won't. So if a partner comes to us and says, I'm interested in putting together a group of people to talk about early childhood education. So we go out to our partners and say, we're putting together a group to talk about early childhood education. Here's the link. Why don't you come join us? We make the calls to the partners. Please join. You might be interested. They get on a call and they decide whether that group wants to continue moving forward or it's a one-time thing. The master classes, last year, we had some classes that we thought were technical in nature, how organizations could do things better. They weren't as well attended as we thought. We think we're trying to offer things that people don't get elsewhere. And really what that is for us at the end of the day is meeting other partners in Global Jewry. That's what they can't find anyplace else. So now our master classes are more open mic events where, like I said, we invite people to give us 3 to 5 minutes of their time to say what they do and answer questions to the rest of the group. We have another one tomorrow. So we're moving away so much from sort of trying to teach people things, because in many cases they can get them elsewhere. We were trying to provide the things that they can't find anywhere else.
That's really amazing. It sounds like you have direct connections with a lot of people who are doing really important things in the world. What kinds of innovations and hope are you seeing on the horizon?
Well, as you can imagine, the smaller organizations that join us are much more, are very excited and very engaged because they understand the resource that we represent to them. The larger organizations, they're there, they're being supportive, but they're not engaging with us, frankly, at the level that I would like. But that's to be expected. They have other things that are going on. And unless we can clearly demonstrate the value to them, particularly their senior leaders, it's hard to get their attention. What we're trying to do with the larger organizations is not necessarily rely on our relationship with the CEO or the CFO, but maybe we can find somebody in the development department or the communications department or in the marketing department where their responsibilities are working with other organizations in a way that's their main focus. So we're a resource for them. In terms of excitement, look, since we've started this, right, judicial reform, and just a few months after was the tragedy of October 7th. It's not so much what's exciting about what we're doing is recognizing all the people who care so much about being part of the Jewish people, and they're finding ways to participate. They're raising their hand, right, and they're saying Hineni. Being able to support people to do that, to help them expand their networks right away, to help them find other people who share their concern, their passions, their emotions. The one area where we'd love to be able to do more, but it's just hard, is help. Every organization of ours would like help fundraising. We can't really do that for 500 organizations, and it's very hard. They have to do that themselves. But we can provide some tips here and there about how to do that as well. So I guess what I would say the exciting thing is to say that as the Israelis and Jewish people around the world are under siege, as we have been since October 7th, the number of people that are standing up and they are saying, here I am, I'm here to help, I'm trying to help. That's really what's most exciting and inspiring.
What advice do you have for content creators that are on social media to help leverage or kind of shift the narratives that are being set against us? We are under siege. It seems like every day we're on a new front against another country or another libel. What do you think as Jewish content creators we can do to help, boost the Jewish global, unity project, but also just in ways of activism? What do you suggest?
Well, look, in some respects, I'm preaching to the choir here, because this is what you do and this is your area of expertise. I think it's very interesting that where we find ourselves today, I think, is that many people recognize that we're not going to change minds and hearts, if you will, via social media, right? And people are not. We're living in a crazy upside down world where facts don't matter, truth doesn't matter. So trying to explain things only makes us look worse, even though what we're trying to explain is the truth, and you would think it would explain things clearly, but it doesn't do that. It just makes it worse, right? So I think what we're finding among large parts of our community is the only way forward in this is to look within the Jewish people and strengthen the Jewish identities of as many Jews as we can reach. I don't think we can. I mean, we can do some of that via social media, but really that has to be done on a person-to-person, panim el panim, face-to-face, connecting with people. That's what we need to do. I mean, my Judaism came from my parents, right? It came from the household, which was, a completely Jewish environment. And it's harder and harder to do that, particularly in North America with interfaith families and so forth. It's a harder thing to do, but that's where it starts, right? And if people are proud to be Jewish and have a strong Jewish identity, then we'll weather this storm. And what will happen is we will be able to project ourselves and assist in the world in the way that it's our responsibility, right, to help repair the world. We'll do that, but we have to build from within. I don't think we're going to be able to fight the battles, the external battles, not in this environment, and not in this political where we are politically in the world.
Agreed. And I love that you brought up, Sue, that you come from a family with deep Jewish strong roots, because I am seeing parents now that are sharing that they really didn't bring their children up, going to Jewish day schools and things like that. How did coming from a family with strong Jewish roots really kind of instill a sense of responsibility to your own people for you?
That kind of question is like asking me, how do you breathe? It's I don't know. There's no alternative. That was just that's what you do, right? You are a member of the Jewish people, and you have a responsibility to the Jewish people and to the world at large. And I really don't even know. I'm sort of speechless because there is no alternative. Ignoring that, not doing anything, is not living life. That's why you were given life, right? So that's how essential it is for me. Now, I understand for other people, it's not like that. But for other people, there may be something else that they learn at home or with their friends about the responsibility to others. And I think that's what we really need to teach more and more, and we need to inculcate in people, particularly as technology separates us, right? And we're further and further apart. I don't think it's an accident that we have this explosion in technology and the lack of connection, right? Or the connections are far more complicated. So what we need to do is to engage with one another on a personal level. We need to remind each other what's important about being a human being, the responsibility to others being one of the main elements of that, and that if we can teach that at home, that would be very, very helpful.
So I know there's a lot of, negativity going around in the world, a lot of libels being said, and, we have all these different fronts going on, but what's giving you hope right now? What are some positive things that are happening right now that we should be more aware of, as a Jewish community right now during this time?
Well, I was speaking to somebody else the other day, and they asked sort of a similar question, and I mentioned Rami Davidian, who is sort of the folk hero, or one of October 7th, who was somebody who just was a farmer, not at the festival, heard what was happening, drove his car, picked people up, took them out of danger, turned around, went back amid the fire, went back and forth, because that's what he knew he was supposed to do, right? And somehow when he was growing up, he learned about responsibility for other people. And when something happened, he acted. And so it's strength and resilience and taking action. What inspires me is I think that there are lots and lots of Rami Davidians in the Jewish world all across the globe. Very few of us, to the extent that he demonstrated his heroism, his courage, and his commitment to our people. But in different ways, others are doing that. And it's a difficult time, and many are shrinking, but it could be a lot more. I think the people who are standing up, again, like I said, saying Hineni, demonstrating their strength, their resilience, their willingness to engage, that's really inspiring at a time when people could run and hide.
Absolutely. Rami Davidian was such a hero. And I love that he is an Arab Israeli who helped save Jews. Now, when we're looking at that in terms of global Jewry, let's say that I was a non-Jewish organization that wanted to be really a partner to the Jewish people. Would I be able to join global Jewry as well, too?
We don't have a hard and fast rule against that. What I would say is the real focus, though, is knitting the Jewish community together because of the challenges of the insularity, the silos, the turf battles, so forth. So we would do everything at Global Jewry we can to welcome organizations and to sort of assist it, but it's not the main focus of the organization. The main focus of the organization is to improve communication and collaboration within the Jewish community. So that's really where our focus will remain for the foreseeable future.
Incredible. To go back to Israel, I'm just curious to hear your thoughts. I've heard from my own mother and from others, Israel's causing all of the anti-Semitism. It's Netanyahu. He's the one who's causing all of this. If it weren't for Netanyahu, we wouldn't be in this mess right now. What are some ways we could push back, or how do we balance that Israel is part of the Jewish identity, and we can criticize Israel, but at the end of the day, putting all the onus on Israel and its politics for the cause of anti-Semitism? How would you respond to that?
Well, I guess I would respond to it with the obvious answer that there was a lot of anti-Semitism pre-1948. It didn't start there. Now, having said that, I do think that that actions of the Israeli government, but more importantly, statements of certain ministers from the current government are, let's just say, less than helpful. In terms of what we're trying to do, first of all, what the Jewish people are all about, and secondly, what are the legitimate safety and security concerns of Israelis, of all Israelis, versus attitudes and behaviors that are abhorrent, whether they're coming out of the mouth of an Israeli official or anybody else. So the Israel government certainly isn't helping the case right now. But on the other hand, as we've talked about before, in a world where the facts are ignored and things are ignored, that's not going to make a difference. If it wasn't that, it'd be something else, right? So I think, again, what we have to do is it is important to try to set the record straight when the opportunity presents itself, to make the argument. Don't believe that you're going to change the perspective of the person, but I do think it's important to set the record straight and be straightforward with people. And then just say, look, anti-Semitism, it's a very complicated thing. There's been anti-Semitism since there have been Jews, since Abraham, and I don't see it going away anytime soon. I wish it would. I wish the world would become more enlightened, and that people would be more understanding, and maybe there's a time that'll happen. But for now, we just have to work through where we are today.
100%. What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes that Jewish institutions make when they try to do coalition or unity building?
Well, I think it's hard. I mean, organizations tend to be afraid that if they really collaborate and share information with other organizations, their donors or their constituents will leave them for some other enterprise, right? So that's part of the scarcity mindset that we're dealing with. So I think the first thing we need to do is trying to help organizations understand that their constituents will, I think, greatly appreciate learning more, hearing other perspectives, expanding their knowledge base. I actually think they're exposing their constituents to more broadly what's happening in the Jewish world will be very well received, and they will be rewarded from it by a commitment from their constituents and continuation of support from their donors, and maybe an expansion of their donor base, right? You take a look at the Jewish Federation system, for example, and you can see that while the Federation system collectively may be raising more money than ever, it's from fewer donors than ever. Right. So the disproportionality of sort of connection and resources is part of the problem. I also think that everybody in the Jewish world, they think if they have $50,000 or $100,000 and a good idea, they can change the world. And that's not how the world works. Right. You need to have critical mass of support, critical mass of resources, critical mass of of marketing outreach. And you're just not going to change the world. And those people, those individual enterprises need to understand that working in concert with others is actually going to make them stronger. That's particularly true in areas, for example, like anti-Semitism, where there are small organizations, each of which is working on a different facet. So actually coming together and working together would be phenomenal, because they're not, other than dealing with anti-Semitism itself, they are not trying to do the same thing. Some people are working on messaging, some people are working on recruiting, some people are working on this. If you brought all that together, all these individual efforts, and you brought some umbrella over them so they could work in concert with one another, they would actually all be stronger for that. So it's just a hard cultural, what do they say? We're the stiff-necked people, right? It's a hard culture to change. We need to keep working at it. And I think we are beginning to see here and there pockets of collaboration and cooperation more than we've seen in the past. There are lots of local communities where, particularly, a strong federation has been able to sort of knit things together. So it's not all terrible, but we need to do a much better job on the national and the international levels, and really catch up to where some of the local communities have succeeded. We need to figure out how do we make that happen at the larger levels.
I hear that. I have a question from Kazuza saying, "Hi, Sandy. You have spent decades connecting Jewish communities globally. What's the biggest gap you still see between intention and action?"
I think the biggest gap is the lack of real interest from Jews of, let's say, North America, let's say United States and Canada, and to some extent the Jews of Israel, but we'll come back to that. But certainly North America, there's not the connection to Jewish communities in other places that I would like to see. When we were at Schusterman and we were doing lots of things internationally, there wasn't that much support. We couldn't really gather people. It was much easier to gather people around agendas regarding early childhood education or day schools or birthright or trips to Israel. But when you started to say, no, we need to help communities in Europe, you got a little bit of pushback. You got a pushback that said they should take care of themselves, or they have resources they can take care of themselves, or they're too small, they should probably all move. You had all sorts of responses other than, you're absolutely right, there are Jews who live there and we need to support them to the greatest extent possible. Look, the JDC does a great job of helping communities around the world, and it's continued to grow and be supportive, but often it's the sort of the lone voice out there doing very meaningful work in those communities. We need to bring greater resources, and we need to give a greater sense of Jewish global peoplehood. That's why I say, go back to my original point. If we switch it to we're all part of a global people, and then how you activate it, right? How you live your Jewish life, we'll see the kind of increased attention, I think, paid to global communities that they deserve.
Agreed. Very much so. Agreed. Quickly, I know before our time is up, I know that you had graduated from Harvard, correct? From law school. Did you ever?
From undergrad. I went to law school at University of Maryland.
Oh, excuse me. And with Harvard in the news, because I live very close to where Harvard is, in the news right now in the Boston Globe, I'm just curious, as your alma mater, what is your take on the DOJ fighting anti-Semitism on campus? Because, from the Globe and from other articles from Boston, it seems very much so, well, there really wasn't anti-Semitism. This is really just something anti-Trump. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I think, let's just say this. When I was there, which, I'm old, so it's like the Civil War time. When I was there, I did not feel anti-Semitism. That was not something. But as time went on, it wasn't so much the university that I thought, or universities that I thought were anti-Semitic. There were some real challenges among the faculty. And when when university and college administrations are unwilling to take on faculty members who are doing things that are improper and running from them in many respects, that's where the problem lies. Now, I think there was some of that at Harvard, as there were at many universities. Administrators needed to step up. I thought when they went to Washington, they did a terrible job, and in fact demonstrated just the opposite. They were demonstrating what was happening. They were turning their blind eye to all of these things because they didn't want to have to deal with the faculty on that regard. Now, when it comes to the DOJ and Harvard, look, I don't think you can separate the politics. And so I do think there's a political element to this. But anything we can do to have administrators really take the complaints and the concerns of Jewish students seriously about treatment that they're receiving in their classes, that's where the work needs to be done. And that's what university administrators have a responsibility to do. If they're not doing it, then I think the government should come in and deal with it. Jewish students and all students of all kinds need to be protected from the faculty and from other students if it's an unsafe or hostile environment. And so I think that part's a good part. And I think with something we need to keep an eye on. I mean, For years, I've dealt with this challenge in different ways. We've worked with the university administrators, we work with professors, we work with student groups, but we have to stay vigilant. We have to stay on top of it because it does appear, and it is reality, that so much of what we see in the anti-Jewish or Jew hatred or anti-Israel, anti-Zionism does really take root on the college campus. It's a hothouse for that kind of rhetoric and behavior, and we really need to address it, lest it become a greater problem than it is. And I just want to say one other thing, to go back about the global. What I'm really hopeful we can do is that the next generation, there are emerging generations of Jews who see the world a little bit differently, who do have a little bit more, I think, of a universal mindset, of a global mindset, that they apply that. That's why we need strong Jewish identities. With strong Jewish identities, they'll take that same concept of universalism, of everybody being together and understanding, and apply it to our own parochial, the Jewish community, which I think will benefit the Jewish community. And then in turn, we can fulfill our biblical responsibility to help society at large. So I'm really counting on your generations and below to make the difference, because my generation, I'll be generous and say we did our best. There's a lot of work left to be done.
100%. It always just goes from generation to generation. I would say your generation did the work. I actually just saw Mel Brooks's documentary, and I didn't know that he actually fought in World War II. He was a Nazi fighter. You know, so you guys have done a great job. It's our generation, Gen X, and below us, millennials, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and so we will definitely take this fight from you. But thank you so much for joining us today, Sandy. We really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Kol hakavod for what you're doing, and anytime you want me back, I'll be available to you.
Amazing.
We appreciate it so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Toda rabah.
Bevakasha.
Wow, that was amazing. What a great conversation with Sandy Cardin from Global Jewry.
And what I love is that he's focusing on unity, which is so huge. I know we've talked about this for months. I know other content creators have said the same thing. And here's a chance for us to put our money where our mouth is and actually join and actually be proactive and try to really look inward and really solidify our own Jewish people. You know, like we really do need to look inward and make ourselves strong, because we're only as strong as our weakest link. And it's free. I mean, you can easily just sign up, things, you know, free classes. I think this is something that anyone who is just struggling, like, what can I do to help? I just feel like I'm just one person. What can I do? Here is something that,
and even if you're just coming like from a completely selfish point of view, like even if you're just saying, oh, you know what, I want to do it just for networking purposes. I mean, look who you're networking with. When you join, you are networking with people that are titans in their industry, and it's free. Why would you not do it? You know?
And all the little niches that you're interested in, you know, he said art, he said sports. I mean, gosh, you know, that could be something that somebody built, you know, a hobby. And now here's something, a way that you can be an activist, you know, for our own Jewish community through that. I mean, it's incredible. So I'm definitely going to take a look at it myself, because I think it's just something so worthwhile for our community during this time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we want to thank all of you guys for joining us today here at Am Yisrael Thrive. We hope you have a wonderful week ahead of you. And remember that thriving is our resistance, guys. All right?
Yes. And as my shirt says, oh my gosh, I don't know if I showed you, the more they hate us, the more Jewish we get.
Yes. And my shirt, I just got a new shirt from Matthew Nuriel that says Queen. It says Queen Mother, darling. And it's the Shabanu Farapat Levi, darling.
I love it. I love it.
I love these shirts that we get on the internet, you know?
Oh, so I hope everyone has a great rest of their Sunday, and I hope you have a really great upcoming work week. And I hope everyone enjoys the beautiful sun before it starts raining, at least for me here on the East Coast. But yeah.
Oh. Absolutely. Oh, it's a little kid. Look at that.
Yeah, my son's in the background with the dog. So
no worries. Well, have a wonderful week, guys. We will see you next Sunday.
Bye.